All right, this is the end of First They Killed My Father. This is the epilogue, and it's not long, so I'm going to go ahead and read that. Um, I'm almost home after a 31-hour plane ride across the Pacific. I'm in my last hour of the trip from Bangkok to Phnom Penh. Below me is Cambodia, my land, my history. With my forehead resting on the window, I see that it is the rainy season, and most of Cambodia is submerged in silver shimmering water. I think of Pa, Ma, Kiev, and Geek. Swallowing tears that drip down my throat, I reflect on how I left my family behind. When Meng and I came to America, I did everything I could to not think about them. In my new country, I immersed myself in American culture during the day, but at night, the war haunted me with nightmares. And I mean, the things that she went through, everyone would have nightmares from that. What she saw, no one should ever see, like just horror after horror after horror. On occasion, the war crossed over from my dream world to reality, as it did in 1984 when the drought in Ethiopia brought daily images of children dying from starvation. On the television screen, children with bellies too big for their bodies and skin hanging loosely on their protruding bones begged for food. Their faces were hollow, their lips dry, their eyes sunken and glazed over with hunger. In those eyes, I saw Geek, and I remembered how all she wanted was to eat. As the Ethiopian crisis faded from the screens in American consciousness, I was even more determined to make myself a normal American girl. I played soccer. I joined the cheerleading squad. I hung out with my friends and ate a lot of pizza. I cut and curled my hair. I painted my eyes with dark makeup to make them look more round and Western. I'd hoped being Americanized could erase my memories of the war. In her letters to Meng, Chow always asked about what I was doing. I never wrote her back. Oh, that's so sad. Choi, Kim, and Chow continue to live in Ma's hometown of Bat Dang with our aunts and uncles. Soon after Meng and I left, our maternal grandmother, along with the wife of our youngest uncle and their two daughters, also made their ways to the village. Youngest aunt wrote that Khmer Rouge killed her husband. As for our grandmother, she is in her 80s, weak from old age, and speaks very little Khmer. When asked about what she saw, grandmother's wrinkled eyes well up and tears flow down her cheeks. Shaking her head, her small hand wipes her eyes and rubs her chest above her heart. When she turned 18, Chow married a man in the village and later bore 5 children. Together they opened a small stand in front of their house selling bamboo containers and brown sugar. Choi, with his salary as the village's police chief, supports his wife and 6 children. In Bat Dang, a community of almost 100 Ungs grew out of the ashes of the war. In 1988, hoping to join us in America, Kim made his way to a Thai refugee camp. There he stayed in hiding for a few weeks, surviving on the money that Meng sent him. On the other side of the world, in Vermont, Meng hurriedly filled out the family reunification papers to bring Kim to the States. A few months later, we received news that the United States had reduced the number of refugees allowed into the country. As a result, the Thai camp officials rounded up the refugees and deported them back to Cambodia. In Vermont, Meng scrambled to raise the $10,000 it would cost to get Kim out of Thailand. Meng arranged his escape through a black market ring that brought him as far as France. After many years and after filling out many immigration forms, Meng now anxiously awaits the arrival of Kim and his family in Vermont. Meng and his wife Yang have lived in Vermont since we arrived there as refugees in 1980, and they now have 2 daughters. Because of their hard work and determination, our family in Cambodia and in America thrives. Stranded in a foreign land with little knowledge of the culture, society, food, or language, both work long hours at IBM to support the entire family. Though Meng has kept the family in Cambodia and here afloat for many years, he still harbors deep sadness that we did not succeed in bringing our entire family over. With current politics and immigration laws, the chance that our family will ever be reunited is very slim. As for me, I lived for 15 years isolated and sheltered from the continuing war in Cambodia, while Meng and Yang worked not only to make ends meet but to have enough left over to send to Cambodia. I learned to speak English, attended school, and looked after their two children. Eventually, I earned an undergraduate degree in political science and went to work for a domestic violence shelter in Maine. After 3 years, in 1997, I moved to Washington, D.C., and found work at the Campaign for a Landmine Free World, the CLFW. Now, as the spokesperson for CLFW, I travel extensively across the United States and overseas, spreading the message about landmines and what it was like in Cambodia. As I tell people about genocide, I get the opportunity to redeem myself. I've had the chance to do something that's worth my being alive. It's empowering. It feels right. The more I tell people, the less the nightmares haunt me. The more people listen to me, the less I hate. After some time, I had talked so much I forgot to be afraid. That is, until I decided to return to Cambodia. As the trip grew near and my anxiety increased, my terrible nightmares returned. In one dream, I'd board the plane in America as an adult woman only to step off in Cambodia as a child. The child was lost in a crowd of people desperately looking for her family, calling the names of her siblings, calling out to her parents. I woke up each morning increasingly panicked about this homecoming. The day of the trip, my anxiety transformed into excitement. As I boarded the plane in Los Angeles, I fantasized about how it would feel to return to where I belong, a place where everyone speaks my language, looks like me, and shares the same history. I envisioned myself getting off the plane and walking into the open arms of my family. I daydreamed about the warmth of the many arms of my aunts, cousins, and chow around me, encircling me, forming a protective cocoon, keeping me safe. Finally, the plane's tires screeched against the tarmac of the short runway, and I braced myself for the first meeting with my family in a long time. My heart beat loudly inside my head, making my scalp sweat. The stewardess announced for all to remain in their seat until the plane came to a complete stop. It felt like hours later by the time I emerged from customs to make my way out of the airport. I spotted my family right away. They were all there. 20 or 30 of them stood elbow to elbow and pushed at each other to catch their first glimpse of me in many years. With chow and choy in front, though the temperature was a mild 75 degrees, my hands were sweaty and hot. I watched my aunts and uncles' eyes frown as they continued to study me. My comfortable, practical, stain resistant, loose fitting black pants, brown t shirt, and black Tiva sandals drew quizzical looks from Chow and Choi. Then I realized my mistake. I looked like the Khmer Rouge. All my fantasies of instant connection were crushed. My family and I reacted awkwardly to each other, and they kept their many warm arms at their sides. Standing by myself, I stared at Chow. My throat tightened. Though she had grown, I am still a few inches taller than she. Her hair long and black, her skin smooth, her lips and face made up with rouge, and she reminded me of Ma. She was beautiful. Once her glance reached my face and our eyes locked, I saw that they are the same kind, gentle, and open. Instantly, she covered her mouth and burst into tears, and she ran over to me. The family was speechless. She took my hand, her tears cool in my palm. Our fingers clasped around each other naturally, as if the chain was never broken, and I allowed Chow to lead me to the car while the cousins followed with my bag. And there are pictures of them all together. So this is Chow with her family. So there's Chow all grown up. Um, that is her husband. That's when they got married. I remember she got married when she was 18. That's young. And then this is Choi and his wife. Remember, he's got 6 kids. And then this is Kim and his wife, Hui, and their daughter, Nancy. Yeah. And this is Meng, and this is him in Cambodia visiting. And this is Chow and Loung together with, let's see, Chow's daughter. And this is Loung, and she's in Cambodia, and she's visiting the temple that her daddy took her to, right there. So hopefully that helps to heal her somewhat. Genocide is a terrible thing, but if we don't study it, history will repeat itself. There is a film by Angelina Jolie that actually you can look up and watch. It's on Netflix. And I think it's called First They Killed My Father. So maybe you can look into that.